The Legend of Sakura, the Rising Tide. The air in the residential block felt different today, or perhaps it was just Sakura. She stood in her small bunk room, the door locked, letting out a long breath she felt she'd been holding for a week. Standing before the full-length mirror, she surveyed the results of Dr. Kingsley's procedure. Her white t-shirt clung to a frame that was now remarkably toned, her shoulders broader, and her posture naturally commanding. She adjusted the belt of her green camo pants, feeling the weight of her black army boots. She wasn't just a soldier anymore. She was a masterpiece. It was her eyes that truly startled her. The once muted color had transformed into a striking, luminous pink that seemed to glow with an inner fire. As she leaned in closer to the glass, she felt a surge of energy, a predatory sharpness to her vision that made the smallest dust motes visible in the air. The serum hadn't just changed her muscles, it had rewired her spirit. She felt a strength bubbling beneath her skin, a restless tide waiting for a reason to break. The heavy metallic thud of a fist against her door shattered the silence. "Open up, Sakura," a voice roared, thick with gravel and malice. It was Sergeant Biff. The door shuddered under a second, more violent blow. "A whole week missing drills? You think you can just hide in the labs while the rest of us sweat? I'm going to drag you out by those long locks of yours." Biff had been the bane of her existence since enlistment, a bully who mistook cruelty for leadership. Sakura didn't hesitate. She palmed the door release, and it hissed open. Biff stumbled forward, surprised by the sudden lack of resistance. He loomed over her, his shadow swallowing her small frame. But Sakura didn't flinch. "I'm done taking orders from a man who can't even knock," she said, her voice like ice. Biff's eyes raked over her new physique, a sneer forming. "Think a little gym time makes you tough? You're still a weakling." Sakura stepped into his space, her pink eyes locking onto his. "Prove it. Melee spar. If I win, the bullying stops. If you win, I'll be your slave." Total subservience. The news of the wager hit the barracks like a lightning strike. By the time Sakura arrived at the central arena, the observation tiers were packed with soldiers eager for a spectacle. She stepped onto the sand-covered floor, the bright spotlights reflecting off her long brown hair. She picked up a standard-issue training blade, its weighted edge familiar in her hand. Across the circle, Biff was already waiting, rolling his shoulders and cracking his neck, a predatory grin on his face. He saw her as a prize, not a peer. Biff didn't wait for a signal. He charged like a bull, his heavy boots kicking up clouds of synthetic sand. He swung his own training blade in a wide, punishing arc meant to end the fight in a single blow. The sheer force behind the strike was enough to knock a normal soldier unconscious even through a parry. He was leaning all his weight into the attack, his eyes wide with the desperate need to exert dominance over the woman who had dared to challenge him. Sakura moved with a speed that defied human biology. To the crowd, she was a blur of white and green. She didn't just block the blow, she redirected it, her blade catching Biff's with a resonant clang. Using his momentum against him, she pivoted on her heel and brought her blade upward in a blindingly fast slash. The tip of her sword whistled through the air, catching Biff just under the guard of his vest and sending him stumbling back, gasping for air as her enhanced strength took its toll. The match didn't last much longer. Biff, humiliated and gasping, tried a desperate lunge, but Sakura simply stepped aside and delivered a final, decisive strike to his midsection. He collapsed onto the sand, his training blade clattering out of his reach. Sakura stood over him, her chest barely heaving, her expression one of calm superiority. The arena went silent for a heartbeat before erupting into a deafening roar of cheers. The weak link had just dismantled the strongest sergeant on the base. Despite everything, Sakura reached down, extending her hand to the fallen man. It was a gesture of professional courtesy, a sign that the debt was settled and they could move forward. Biff stared at her hand, his face turning a deep, ugly shade of purple. He didn't see mercy. He only saw his own shame reflected in her pink eyes. With a snarl of pure hatred, he slapped her hand away and scrambled to his feet, turning his back on her and the crowd as he fled the arena floor. Sakura watched him go, then turned to the observation deck where the high-ranking officers sat. "This victory belongs to the future of the EDF," she shouted, her voice echoing through the rafters. "And I owe my new strength to the genius of Dr. Kingsley. But I'm not stopping here. Today, I'm enrolling in officer candidate school. I'm going to lead this defense force into a new era." She raised her practice blade high, the light catching the pink of her eyes. "Next time you see me, you will call me Captain Sakura."